Welcome to Knife Thoughts. This video is going to be on this knife, and this is the new RoseCraft Blades Cockleburr Creek Trapper. And so first of all, I want to say thank you to Andy at RoseCraft Blades for both sending this knife for me to check out and offering to give one of these away to one lucky Knife Thoughts viewer like you. So if you're interested in winning one of these, make sure you stick around to the end of the video where I'll give the details on how to enter. And so this is an exciting release from RoseCraft Blades because it is their first trapper pattern. And the trapper pattern is one of the most well-recognized patterns in traditional American pocket knives. So even if you don't know that it's a trapper, that it's called a trapper, I think most people have probably seen a trapper knife, something like this case trapper. But even though it's well-recognized, it's a little bit of a nebulous pattern. And I actually wrote an article on what makes a trapper pattern, which you can check out up here if you're interested. But this is a very classic trapper pattern. So it has the typical dogleg style or kind of curved jack style handle, similar to a case trapper, but really just kind of turned up. The design is just tuned up a little bit. You can see that they both curve towards the blade well side as it goes from the pivot to the butt of the knife. They both get wider from the pivot end to the butt end, and then they both have this swell on the blade well side of the handle at the center. But again, if you're familiar with a case trapper, all of that is just kind of turned up a little bit higher on the RoseCraft version of the trapper. So it gets more wider, it gets wider and more so between the pivot and the butt end than the case trapper. The swell is taller and it's just got a little bit more curve to it. But then the other thing that's very typical for a trapper is to have two full-size blades. And you can see that this has that. So rather than having a main blade and then a pen blade or some sort of smaller blade, trappers typically have two full-length blades. And not only that, but they typically have the most common blade shape combination is a spay blade and a clip point. And that's what this has. So you can see it's got a classic spay blade. You can see the tang stamp with RoseCraft there. And then it also has a clip point. Now, one thing I wanted to say about this clip point is that it's a pretty interesting clip point. It is a little bit more of like a straight back. It does have a swedge here that gives it a clip point look, but there's not a whole lot of actual downturn to the spine of this knife. There's some, but there's not a whole lot. So it's a lot closer to a straight back style blade than it is a typical clip point. So I'll give you a comparison to the blade on this case trapper. And you can see that the case trapper turns down towards the tip on the spine more than the Cockleburr Creek trapper does. So that's just kind of one slight difference, one way that Andy has reimagined the trapper pattern for their version here. Now, this knife has the rosebud shield, which is kind of a trademark. I don't know if it's literally a trademark, but it's kind of a hallmark, I guess I'll say, for RoseCraft blades. I think it's a nice looking shield, and it fits well with the overall look of this knife, especially with these really nice rosewood handles. So I've talked a lot about how RoseCraft blades does a great job getting just nice looking covers for their knives, and that's certainly true on this one. Now, I do want to say, for full disclosure, I got two of these, and one of them did come with a crack. So hopefully you can see that crack there. Crack just kind of right at that spring pin. But that's something that does happen on natural handle materials like rosewood. And you know, one thing that you can be sure of is that they will stand behind their product. They recently actually posted in their Facebook group that, you know, if you ever have a knife that you're not happy with, or certainly that has an issue like that, you can always reach out to them and they will be happy to, you know, fix the issue for you. So whether that is replacing it or, you know, fixing it, I'm not exactly sure. It kind of probably is case by case, but absolutely, if you get an issue like that on, you know, a RoseCraft Blades knife, I think you should reach out to them directly. Sometimes people post in the Facebook groups first, or just complain or something online. I think the first thing to do is to reach out directly to RoseCraft Blades, and they will help you out. It really seems to me like they want to make sure that people are happy with their products. So just be aware of that. There are things that can happen with natural cover materials, especially it's kind of a trade-off. If you're going to have synthetic cover materials, you're less likely to have things like that, but you're also not going to have this beautiful grain. So that's kind of the trade-off that you have. I will say the risk seems really low of having issues like that. I've gotten to check out a lot of RoseCraft blades, and that's the first crack that I've had in any of them. I've had a couple that had a little bit of shrinkage in wood handles, but I've had several GEC knives recently that had shrinkage in wood handles, and I also had a crack in a GEC handle recently, and other brands like Cooper Cutlery sometimes will have things like that. Another thing that you do have sometimes on GEC knives is gaps, and I think that these RoseCraft blades do such a good job with fitting the covers to the knives. So you can see there's no gap between the cover and the bolster there or there, and then the back springs, no gaps whatsoever. And also the shields are fitted really, really nicely. They're just really fit in there without any gaps. So, I think that RoseCraft blades, that's almost the exception that proves the rule. I've seen people criticizing that saying, but I think that you understand what it means. That crack is the exception that proves the rule, that typically you're going to get a really, really nicely made knife. And if you do have an issue, just reach out. But the action is great on this. Now, one thing, the nail nick is relatively high up here towards the pivot, but it's not a super strong pull. I would say it's like a 5. So you can see I have no issue opening it. Then on this side, the spay blade, the nail nick is nice and low. It's down below the swell. So above the swell on the clip point and below the swell on the spay blade, and no issue opening and closing that either. No blade play, nice action, nice and solid. They both sit deeply within the frame, which is something I really appreciate. RoseCraft blades seems to get that right, pretty much all the time. So the tips sit well within the frame, so you don't have to worry about catching your finger or the tip coming above the frame after, a few sharpenings. And it also, as usual, has stop pins, so you don't have to worry about blade wrap. So just a really classic, but unique at the same time, take on the trapper pattern. It feels good in the hand because these blades sit nice and low in the frame. You don't really feel a hot spot from those, whether you have the clip point or the spay blade open. I think a nice thing with a trapper blade or a trapper knife is that you can typically use the clip point and keep the spay blade nice and sharp. So, you always kind of have a sharp full-size blade. That's what I've seen other people talk about doing, and I think it's a nice use for the fact that it has 2 full-size blades. So I think this is a great rendition of the Cockleburr, of the trapper in the Cockleburr Creek trapper from RoseCraft blades. And if you would like to win one, make sure you go to the description, and there's going to be a link to enter your email. And so what that will do is, first of all, it will subscribe you to Knife Thoughts, to my newsletter. I don't send a whole lot out. I send out emails when I post articles and stuff like that, but it's not spammy. And so you'll be subscribed to Knife Thoughts, and I will also share your email with RoseCraft blades so that they're able to contact you, get the knife to you and everything like that. And enter your email and everything there, and you will be entered to win one of these. So again, thank you to Andy and RoseCraft blades for sending this knife for me to check out, and for giving all of my viewers the opportunity to win one. So good luck to everyone. Make sure you subscribe to the channel here, click the bell and select all of that good stuff. And last but not least, as always, don't forget to go out and do good.